meeting, guys. Time. All right, everybody, we're going to call the meeting to order. If we do the flag salute, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do a roll call, please.
Councilmember Clerk.
Here.
Councilmember Collings.
Here.
Councilmember Stackfleth. Councilmember Globman.
Here.
Mayor Redmond.
Here. All right, seeing no special presentations, we'll move into public comment. If anybody in the audience wishes to speak about anything that's not on the agenda, you have 3 minutes right now, so come on up. All right, seeing nobody, we'll close that. Move on to council and staff comments, starting with you, Todd.
Okay. First thing I'll start with is the landing. We, as many of you probably have heard, we're in a process of going through the Surplus Land Act, which is something the state requires for the city to, quote unquote, dispose of city-owned property. We have a respondent. Basically, the Surplus Land Act is designed to give cities, other public entities that are potentially disposing of property, give first dibs to affordable housing developers. And so we have a entity who has signed on and wants to negotiate to build some affordable at the landing. We don't have any information on a mix of units, but they're also interested in developing the rest of the landing. Their team flew in last week, one person from Southern California, one person from Montana, and another from Dallas, Texas, and met with leaders in the community and some members of council, and really to kind of get a sense of what are the needs. And and I think one of the themes that came out of a lot of these meetings is the two main drivers here are that we need to bring living wage jobs back to the area, and that we need to provide affordable housing, and not just affordable housing in very low income, but that missing middle, more the kind of housing that's hard to build because there are no subsidies and there aren't major profits in it. They seem to have gotten that message, and as we move forward, nothing's real until we have an agreement signed, but they're doing the right thing in terms of leading with a public outreach process, back and forth to find out what the community wants to see developed on the landing, and have that happen over several meetings, so and make changes appropriately so that what happens down there does reflect community values and wants, and then we build true community support for the development that happens. So we've talked twice since last week, and we're trying to get some kind of framework in place, and any framework will be brought before council and before the public. Nothing's happening behind closed doors, and we'll see what comes out of this. So that's one. We talked about having 100% design drawings for the renovation and expansion of the library that were completed by an architect out of Berkeley that basically designs libraries for a living. So they turned this over to us, and now it's our job to go out and find a group that can take these 100% design drawings through an engineer's estimate to, truing up what's on those drawings to construction and a certificate of occupancy. So I've got a pretty strong draft RFP together that I'm bringing in front of the Library Tax Advisory Committee this week, and they've got some fundamental questions to answer up front. Well, how do we pay for it? And we know what they bring in annually in library tax revenue, and if there was a loan taken out, what would that cover? And if there was any fundraising that they want to have part of this mix. And do we wait until that process is complete to procure money before we actually put out that RFP, or ask or potentially pay a firm to do the engineer's estimate up front, so we've got a number that we're working towards? Or we put the RFP out now and say, okay, just know that this may take a while for a contract to ink, but tell us what you think it's going to cost to carry us through completion, and then we'll fundraise and get our funding in a row, and then we'll sign an agreement. So that's all happening this week, and it's moving forward. So those are the big things. I sat down with staff, in the fire department and a couple of members of the district last week, just to kind of, talk about concerns that, our folks have, and, try to open lines of communication, hoping that we can lead to more productive and communal resolution to some of our issues, especially as we're in our fiscal state that we are, and how do we carry ourselves through. So those are the big issues. There are a lot more, but those are the big ones.
All right, thank you, Todd. Anybody else? Chief?
Real quick, you guys might have saw that the officers and code enforcement, we got on our bikes and rode with the kids. We had hot chocolate in front of the city hall, and a nice event, well attended by elementary and assistant school, Whitebach, with the police officers to school. And then the second thing is just to remind everybody, as the temperatures start to fall, so do the leaves. And as the leaves fall, please remember that you cannot be pushing them out into the street, blowing them into the street, or raking them into the street. So please bag them up, keep them out of the street, keep our gutters. It clogs up public works equipment. It plugs up our drains. It causes floods. So let's all be a team, work together, keep our leaves out of the street, and then you don't have to see me when I'm not smiling, when I have to say, here's your ticket. So just a friendly reminder, please do that.
Okay. Ken, did you want to reiterate that point about no leaves in the street, and just people hear it twice? Or?
You did an excellent job.
Okay, cool. Cool. Counselors, anything? All right, move on to the, sorry, go ahead,
I just had a quick question for Todd or Ken, perhaps. I thought I saw some folks poking around in the Mountain Townhomes project. Are we back on for that one, or maybe they were just looking at some stuff? Status on that one?
They did resume work this Monday.
Oh, sweet, okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Thank you.
All right, move on to committee updates. Before we do that, just a reminder to the public, there are currently several vacancies on advisory committees, 1 vacancy on the Planning Commission, 2 vacancies on the Beautification Committee, and 2 vacancies on the Downtown Enhancement Advisory Committee, if anybody out there listening is interested. Anything to update on any of those committees, Todd? Or?
Yeah, the DEC met. I should say, they formed an ad hoc committee of their group to talk about, recommendations on how they can maximize the remaining spending they have for the year, and what are the projects they need to get off the books and have the most impact. One. That they wanted to also talk about ways to get the word out about the kind of work they're doing, one of them being coming to this body and talk about all the things they have been doing and what they plan to do for the year. And, we talked about what we can do with social media at the city and what we can't in terms of public records. And, one of their big issues is keeping the alleyway clear between Chestnut and Mount Shasta. There aren't great places for storing garbage bins, but there's grease and vermin and whatnot. So they've been making an effort to go out and talk to those businesses about voluntarily keeping those areas clean. And we talked about if we can't get compliance, we want to see if we can send out code enforcement, to offer warnings. 'Cause essentially, it's those alleys are city right-of-way, but we don't want to take a heavy hand. There's really nowhere else for people to put their garbage cans. Let's cut down on all the grease and garbage. Yeah, that's the gist of it.
Okay. All right, thank you. All right, moving on to consent agenda. City manager recommends approval of the following consent agenda items. All resolutions and ordinances on this agenda or added hereto shall be introduced or adopted as applicable by title only, and the full reading thereof is hereby waived. A, approval of minutes, September 22nd, 2025, regular meeting. B, approval of disbursements, accounts payable for 9/22/25 and 10/3 of 25, total gross payroll and taxes for the period ending of 10/2/25. C, Police Department monthly report, September of 2025. Do we have a motion?
I'll move to approve consent agenda items A through C by title only.
Yes.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. Okay, yeah, ask them then, turn it up.
Any chance we can get this?
Okay.
I think it's the HVAC. I think it's the heating. But we'll see if we can turn the speakers up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to number 8, resolution condemning caste-based discrimination. And Todd, you have the floor.
Okay, the September 22nd council meeting, the mayor was asked to put a resolution on the agenda to against caste-based discrimination, and caste-based discrimination was described in front of this body during a public comment period, and in the packet is discrimination based on social hierarchy and birth, lineage, social standing. It's kind of taken an increase across the country and also here in California. And the proposal is to pass a resolution that's in the packet, condemning and saying that the city of Mount Shasta won't support caste-based discrimination. And so the recommendation is to pass that resolution.
Okay. Any questions?
Seems
No?
pretty straightforward.
Yeah, okay. We'll open up to public comment if anybody wishes to say something. I don't understand what caste-based. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, man. Yes, thank you. She's just gonna.
Thank you, Mr. Manager. My name is Myra Monarch. I'm a resident of Shasta County and a community volunteer and organizer for over 20 years. So caste-based discrimination is a form, I would like to think of it as a form of silent discrimination among people of the same origin. It happens across many cultures. A lot of people think of caste, generally speaking, and refer to South Asia, where arranged marriage, among other caste practices, are happening on a regular basis. When migration happens, we, all of us love to adopt the wonderful things about the U.S., but unfortunately, sometimes with the cultures come the not so pleasant aspects like caste-oppressed practices. I have heard so many stories all throughout the North State of these unfortunate situations. One I can share with you is my wonderful friend, Dr. Pramila Danuka, who is an oncologist and had planned on being here this evening, but couldn't because patients' emergencies. She gave an example of such practice, and she shared that at a conference meeting, at a table with several other colleagues, the first question she was asked was in respect to her caste. In schools, what I can give you an example of is that that's why I say it's silent, because there's this dynamic silent form of indirectly asking about caste. What is your name? What is your last name? Where were you born? That would be an indication of where people fit into the caste system. It's in healthcare, it's in the education system. As a Hispanic, I can tell you that caste oppressed practices happen. I'm Mexican, so let me speak for Mexican people against people from South America because they are born in a specific region. And that happens here in the state. I can give you an example. Down in Shasta Lake City, they are building a complex for low-income individuals, and a family called me, and she said that someone told her, I guess someone not necessarily helping the city with the application process, but maybe a volunteer like myself, that she should not apply for this complex because it's not intended for people like her. So that's a very subtle form of caste-based discrimination. There have been a lot of lawsuits, big names lawsuits, like with companies with corporations like Cisco and Google and so many others who in which cases these lawsuits could be won, but they couldn't because maybe let me put it this way. I'm trying to be cautious with my words. I recently met with a councilwoman from the city of, from Nevada City, and she said to me, "This is the whitest city in the state. Why would we need to adopt a caste resolution? Secondly, how would it change anything? And why would another resolution, we already have so many in place condemning discrimination, why would another resolution change anything?" And I said, well, first of all, just because this is the whitest city in the state doesn't mean the caste practices have never happened. Most importantly, we don't want them to happen and people not feel empowered to be protected. The reason this doesn't get reported is because people don't feel like they can speak up. They don't even want to speak publicly because they don't want their caste revealed. So in respect to the second, oops.
Sorry, thank you for the explanation.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody else wish to say anything? All right, seeing none, we'll close the public comment. All right, do we have a motion?
Rachel, do you know what CCR it is?
CCR 2526.
Thank you. Okay, I move to approve resolution number CCR-25-26, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta affirming the city's commitment to fair treatment and condemning caste-based discrimination.
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? None? All right. Thank you, May. All right. Now moving on to number 9, the selection of the date for the proposed ballot measure. And Todd, you have the floor again.
So this is kind of a two-parter. We have William Berry from WBC Campaigns. He is going to go through a presentation of the results of the survey that many of you in the community had the opportunity to take, and a little bit of information on the proposed sales tax general measure in support of fire, police, and public safety.
We did a survey of Mount Shasta residents, a scientific survey. There was a demographic and geographic match of your voters here. asking, and about 100 folks with a margin of error for each question of about 7.5%. And we wanted to find out how folks felt about things in Mount Shasta and would they be willing to support a sales tax increase. Last November, you had a sales tax increase on the ballot. And this was the language. This is what voters saw. And it took 49%, but needed 2/3 plus 1 to pass. So we wanted to see if there was trust built into a measure, transparency, and the temperature. Temperature was taking the gauge of voters to see if we could craft a measure, if you could craft a measure that would meet with public approval, voter approval. And this is what so the question that we asked, the ballot question that we asked was to prevent cuts to police and fire departments, improve public safety, prevent and protect against wildfires, provide rapid responses to 911 emergencies, add needed police officers, firefighters, paramedics. Shall the city of Mount Shasta adopt an ordinance establishing a 1-cent sales tax, providing approximately $2.8 million annually until ended by voters, with strict accountability, annual audits, citizen oversight, and all funds legally required to stay here in Mount Shasta. And so we asked that of the respondents. 77% said yes. 17% were no, 7% were unsure. We then asked them if they were leaning toward, we asked the undecideds, are you leaning yes or leaning no? It was hard no. But there weren't many undecideds to begin with. We then asked them, of the people who said yes, they support the 1-cent tax. We then asked them, how about if it was 1.5 cents? And 51% said yes to the 1.5%. For each of the following, what kind of job is the city of Mount Shasta doing? You can see we have the excellent and good, the fair and the poor, overwhelmingly supportive of the job that you're doing. Police, fire, public works, everybody who works for the city. 62% positive rating of the jobs that you're doing. Just terrific. People don't know that there is a need for more funds in the city, clearly. And then we asked them if there was a new, different uses of a tax measure, of increased tax measure, how would you want them to, would it be important or not important? To prevent deep cuts in the Mount Shasta Police Department, 43% said that was very important for new funds to go for that. To prevent layoffs for emergency medical personnel and to prevent long delays in 911 emergency response times, 69%. Very important. To ensure that Mount Shasta residents can rely on trained professionals to respond to police, fire, and medical, 72%. Very important. To prevent deep cuts in the fire department, 77%. Very important. We asked voters aspects of the tax measure to see if it was important to them, that the money can only be used for locally here in Mount Shasta, that it stays here locally, can't be taken by the state. 94% said that was important to them. Knowing that there's strict accountability, like the Citizens Oversight Committee, 95% important to them. Knowing that the sales tax will cost consumers 1 cent on the dollar, 85% important. Paid by tourists and visitors, 91% important. Knowing that passing the sales tax will prevent deep cuts to Mount Shasta's police, fire, and emergency, 87%. Important. And then after asking them all these questions, giving them more information about a potential tax measure, we asked, how would you support a 1 cent now? 80% supported. And that's just the breakdown of the party and the home ownership renter. So in a nutshell, it's extremely, extremely positive. One difference is the language that was used. If I go back to the first slide, the language that was used for the measure a year ago doesn't really say a whole lot. And so first, an uninformed or an ill-informed voter will vote no on any measure because it's the safest. A no vote retains the status quo. And the status quo was always safer than the unknown, which is a yes vote. So just on the natural, you're going to get less support for this measure because it doesn't really inform. If you take it, compare it to this one, to prevent cuts to its police and fire departments, this language, it gives you lots of information in that 75-word ballot question that you get on the ballot. And so just on the natural, you're going to get extra percentage points, extra support, because you're giving information out. At this time, the questions, the decisions that you all need to make as a city council, and Todd, is this the right time to go into the points that need? The size of the tax, 1%, 1.25%, 1.5%. The 51% support for a 1.5 tax, the 80% support for, yeah.
I don't know if this is an appropriate time. I can save my question.
Sure,
go ahead.
I just have a question about the wording of that. So with the 1%, you said you had a 77% affirmative
Right.
response, which seems very high and well within that 7% margin of error, like easily, right? So asking the 1.5, it dropped to 51%. Getting a little, with the 7%, it's a little bit too close to call, we'd say. Do you think, and when that was done, were people immediately asked 1% and they said, yeah, sure. And then was that immediately followed up by 1.5? Because I'm curious your thoughts on if you think that asking somebody about 1.5 immediately after 1 makes them less likely to say yes than if you just had given them a number with the initial question to begin with. Because in my mind, a voter's like, well, it seems like 1 is fine.
Right.
And so I wonder there.
So we talked about this for hours before the survey. Usually what we would do is we would do what's called a split sample. Half the voters get asked a 1, the other half get asked 1.5. Yeah. And so we compare. You're too small to do a split sample. So what we did is we asked everybody who said yes to the 1, we immediately asked them, well, what if this was 1.5? And then we got the answer that we got. And so it's not the best way to do it, but you're too small for the best. But I think it gives a fairly accurate description of where that falls. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah.
So they're asked the 1.5, if they're a yes, they're asked immediately afterwards.
Because in my mind, the way it's done is like it ties, in the mind of the potential respondee or respondent, it ties the 1% to this need. The 1.5 just seems kind of excess after they've already answered the need. And so
right.
I'm curious if that affects
There is a transition, and we monitor on the phone calls. There is a transition, so it's the bulk of the question, and then for 1%, and then we immediately follow up. But what if that was 1.5? Okay. And so I think that the respondents would have known that it was referring to this. Pretty certain of it.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying there was like I'm not saying there was confusion. It was more of like, I'm curious if some people who would have said yes to the 1.5 and didn't because they were like, well, we already settled it with 1. Right. And that's what I'm curious. If if the 1 is not even an option, I'm curious if more people would have said yes.
And we debated whether or not to start with the 1.5, and yeah. So the decision points. Yeah.
So I think one thing to clarify is this was a snapshot in time before a lot of outreach. And so depending on how outreach works going forward, if it's done right and it's done consistently, then we have the potential to increase these numbers. Of course, the last thing we want to do is get into a situation where we're picking, we've got a need for, 1.5 clearly, is to pick a number that, we're slicing the bread too thin and then we don't pass anything.
Right. They're correct. There were cities that went for sales tax measures same time you did a year ago, who passed theirs and are now going for another one. So, they gave the implications of the first one that this would solve everything. Now they passed a hotel tax and a cannabis tax using the same language that they will now be using for a sales tax, kind of promising that it will fix everything. Things weren't fixed within a year. So Todd, you're right. You have plenty of time to do outreach, education, information, let people know precisely what's on the ballot. The decision points don't need to be made today or right now, but do you want to go for a June or November election? June of 26 as opposed to November 26. November 26 is what the law calls for it to appear on the same ballot that you all appear on when you're up for re-election. To go sooner than that, in June, you would need to pass a declaration of fiscal emergency, which is is both a good thing and a bad thing. It gets people's attention. It's a legal must if you want to go in June, and it is a declaration of your financial situation. So that would need to be done by March to appear on a June ballot. Otherwise, you're talking about June or July as being the date that you would need to call for a November 2026 election.
I'll let you expound on this as the expert, but what we've talked about is, one, the declaration of a fiscal emergency, kind of cuts both ways. It brings attention to the matter, but on the other hand, it can reflect negatively on the city. The other part about going in June is it typically attracts less voters, and it attracts voters that are consistent and reliable voters. So they tend to skew older and towards not voting for turning down tax measures, as opposed to if you went in November, because it's a midterm election, you're going to pull from a larger N, or the number of people voting, and you bring from a full range of demographic groups, so you're more likely, and let me know if I'm wrong on this, but you're more likely to pass that measure in November.
Traditionally, that was absolutely correct in terms of who turns out in primaries and general elections. The last 5 years have kind of turned that on its head. And so I don't know. I do not know which is better. Traditionally, you want to have a larger turnout. Those are more tax, they're less tax averse in a general than a primary. But I don't know.
I have a question, Casey. This is a question, I guess, for Todd. Is there, by doing it in June, when we're not already having another election, is there a cost to the city in terms of getting an election prepped and getting?
Yeah, there's a, I don't know the exact numbers, but it's, I don't know.
But there is a cost.
Yeah, it's
versus doing it in November when there's already. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It depends on if other people within the county join in on that, so it becomes a shared cost. But if they don't, then we would take the brunt of that. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. And then one more question, if that's all right. In declaring a fiscal emergency, is there any other effect to the city? Does this do something that does it trigger something automatically? Does it change anything other than just we declare?
Freeze anything?
No, it's a headline. It doesn't affect a credit rating.
Okay.
It's a declaration. It also, for some, the first reaction is, well, that clearly the city isn't managing their finances well, which may not be the message that we want to send.
Yeah, there's no auditor that gets called when you do the fiscal emergency declaration.
So it's just a legal requirement.
Yes.
To hold it in an offsite.
Right.
Is there a dollar amount or any kind of threshold to be able to declare the fiscal emergency? Or is it like a deficit budget or any legal binding?
Any reason that you as a council give. Now, and it has to be unanimous.
Right.
It has to be unanimous.
Unanimous, okay. Jeffrey?
May I change gears for a moment?
Absolutely.
Because the city of Mount Shasta, I'm trying to understand the relativity of the survey data versus last year's vote on a 1% sales tax increase where we actually had people vote.
Sure.
Versus a survey of them. And if I remember correctly, it was about 49% voted yes for it.
Right.
Now, we didn't do a very good job, admittedly, on promoting it. And I'm trying to not address, but kind of explore your point, which is, okay, at 1%, we had 73-ish% of the people say, yeah, they'd support it today. And if it went to 1.5, it went down to 53 or somewhere in the low 50s. And that information relative to last year, we actually had a vote, and it came up to 49%. Which category of data would you tend to weight as more illuminating of where our city is?
Sure.
Because, and I'm sorry, but to Councilmember Glauman's point, you know, if we struck out the first time, if we strike out this time, I don't think there's going to be a third time for quite a long time.
Sure. There's no third pitch.
And we would be in some dire financial situations. Of course, the future's unknown, so we don't know what's going to happen more generally, but I'm just trying to get your feedback as to how much emphasis you want to put on the survey elements relative to last year's actual voting tallies.
So a poll, a survey, is not a prediction. Absolutely not a prediction. If you put that measure, if you put the measure back on that you put on a year ago, you'll get 49%. But I'm not suggesting that. I'm suggesting communicating with voters about what the real needs are and the consequences are. So I have the voters' rapt attention when I'm on the phone with them and reading to them the ballot language. I have their rapt attention, and we got 77%. You do not have voters' rapt attention a year ago when they got 49%. So you have these uninformed voters, and we know that an uninformed voter will default to vote no. An informed voter is now in the, can make, well, an informed voter got you 77% yes. So I work with a lot of cities that have lost to go a second time. And I did one in Trinity County for the Trinity County ambulance district. And all I did was put things in terms of what they stand to lose if they don't vote for it. And it went from 48% to 77% in 18 months. I just changed some language, just communicated a little bit more. So I would say, I'm not going to give a prediction, but if you communicate, if you have on election day in 2026, if voters know this stuff, I would, plus or minus 7%, it looks pretty good. You have a fertile voter electorate to communicate with. You do not have this anti-tax sentiment that's just hard to break. I would put more stock into last year's results, but with new information. That doesn't answer your question. The voters didn't have the information they needed to vote yes.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any more questions before we open it up to public comment? All right, we'll open it up to public comment. If anybody wishes to speak on this for 3 minutes, come on up.
guys. I have just a thought on this. 100% agree with the way he's saying. I think it's 100% on how you're presenting it to people, and if they understand very clearly why this is so urgent and that it is directly to save emergency services, I think that's why they got such an immediate yes on the one. I would wonder if the reason it seemed like such a steep drop off from the 1 to 1.5 maybe is kind of playing to that where a district came and they passed a tax increase, and then a year or two later they come back with another one because the first one wasn't enough. I would maybe say we need to make extra sure we're tightening up and know exactly what percentage we want, because I would almost think that's why people said no on the 1.5, because it's like, one, because it's exactly for this and we need this. Oh yeah, absolutely. But maybe if it's 1.5 and then like, maybe they don't know what they're doing, they're just pulling numbers out of the air, and we don't want the slippery slope. So that's just my thoughts.
Thank you.
Great insight. So
I think we got one more speaker. Malfa, you up? Or?
My lady, I keep telling her to get on the beautification committee. She says she's so beautiful. Cheesy. Cheesy. Yeah. Absolutely, yes to the 1.5. And my ambitious self, sooner the better, because you can reload. You don't retreat, you just reload. So in my head, if we shoot for June and push it out by March, then if something doesn't happen, like Jeff is saying, I'm kind of on that boat. If something doesn't happen, the crisis behind it is pretty ugly. And the people that have to do double overtime is already strained. And if we're shooting for November because it might be better, and something doesn't happen between 2/3 plus 1, we just lost a year of time that we don't have. And so, yeah, we got the crisis thing that's actually happening right now, budget-wise, and we don't want to see bankruptcies around the corner, but if we don't treat it as something like that. I'm down with June or November, whichever one's best for you guys, that's fine. My little 2 cents is the promotion side of things equals a higher percentage of active, informed voters. The reason why the Yeah movement worked is because we did like 8 potlucks every other week. Because Monday and every second Monday, the second and fourth Monday was the agenda here. And so we put the Yeah movement potluck the second and fourth Sunday, the day before, just like what we did 10 years ago, Crystal Geyser, to inform the public. Now, whenever we say, like we just did one today about tonight's meeting, the updates that's going on the agenda, we went live before coming here. We shot it off to the grapevine. We're probably at 1,000 views right now. And we said to the other cities, if you're in a small city like Etna, Weed, Wairika, and you guys are probably finding the same type of budgeting issues going on, you need to start to get active today and see what the 1.5 is about and support our police and fire department for sure. And so I'm going to say it now. I didn't really talk to her, but we want to help with the promotion of being involved with informed voters. So whatever we can do to help get the votes in, we'd love to do.
I was ready to say aloha, and you didn't greet us.
Aloha! Yes, yes.
Also, I was already planning to reach out to you to help promote this. Don't worry.
One really quick question. Hi, everyone. I'm here because I learned of this, and I was like, I really want to know what's going on. So the first question that popped into my head when I heard of this last month was, well, can I see the budget? And so is there somewhere online where we can find it?
Let me give you my card.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, so we'd have to put it in a format that's understandable. But one of the things we did is we held a town hall where we walked through.
I'm so sorry I missed it.
Oh, no, it's okay. I'm sure we're going to be doing another one.
Okay.
At least one, and potentially a second one as we get closer to whenever we're going to, put this on the ballot. And just rough responses, 9 out of 10 people, when they saw where we are and our explanation and, being open and transparent, we had people coming up and saying, yeah, we absolutely support this. But we plan to do this, once or twice more, and yes, and we'll figure out a way to share this information with you.
Thanks, Todd. I think people will really appreciate that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, come on up.
So after listening to all this, and after speaking to the chief, and I find out that you have positions that aren't filled, I think that needs to be brought up for people to understand why you need a penny. Because we've got fire department, we've got police officers, we've got public service, what do we call the public service people that do work around the city? So we have jobs that aren't filled. That, to me, should be something that's told to people so they understand why you want the money. It isn't just to do some, I don't want to make something up. So anyway, I just wanted to say that after talking to y'all tonight. That makes sense to me.
All right, we'll close, seeing nobody else, we'll close public comment, bring it back. Any more comments, anything anybody wants to say? Or
Are we still in question phase? Or
yeah, ask more questions, yeah, you can
No,
ask.
I don't have any more questions for.
Okay, yeah, then you're in comments, so you say what you want.
Yeah. No comment time?
Yeah. How many years you been on council? Come on.
I get yelled at because I jumped the gun. To answer the questions about why do we need this money, some short headlines. Because of slowing tourism and local spending, and also second, a dramatic reduction in what the state sends us as they have reallocated where we used to get 100% of the sales tax assigned to us, our portion, we now get 0. And it gets, if fulfillment of any online purchase comes from another city inside the state of California, they get it and we don't. This isn't just Mount Shasta, that's all small cities versus fulfillment cities. So that's why revenue is down. On the other hand, we have increased salaries and brought them up to average, on balance, our city size averages. And in doing that, decreasing revenues and increasing expenses, we have lost 500, 600, and 700,000 over the last 3 years. That is an unsustainable path. And in a nutshell, we must bring in more revenue. And instead of waiting for the fight that our city manager is going through to try and get small, along with many others, to get small cities reimbursement of their sales from the state, and waiting for tourism to come back and the economy to turn around, which I don't think it's headed in the right direction at the moment. This is the solution that has us not have to declare an emergency financial problem, and those are the headlines. And because it was a good point today, why are we asking? And consequently, to balance the budget going forward, we have had to furlough fire, police, and Public Works. Actually, Public Works had some flexibility with funds to pull out, but that's a one-time workaround. Then they will also lose people.
But it's also critical equipment and upgrades. It's more than just personnel, and that's going to bite us eventually.
So we need to select a date, or was that the unanimous part? We need John here for that?
That would be to declare a fiscal.
Oh, that part.
That,
okay.
we just need a
Gotcha.
unanimous for that.
We need to have.
So
Yeah.
to do June 9th, we've got to decide that and need John here for that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Okay.
not
That's how-
critical that it happens tonight. this is a discussion that needs to be mulled over, but we figured this is,
Well, I was thinking for the importance of all 5 of us needing to be here with John being in Japan until the next meeting, we table it for 2 weeks until he's back.
I think we're still discussing whether or not we would even need to declare that, because that's only if we're going to put it on June versus November. We haven't really settled on one of those.
Okay, actually, a question for that. Can we do both? Like if June fails, can we still throw it on November's in time?
I mean,
try it again with a lesser number or something?
You have to declare a financial emergency.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
and I get that part.
I think the idea of floating a measure in June would be the equivalent of shooting yourself in the leg and then going out and saying, why don't you shoot me in the other leg?
Well, I'm willing to fail 3 times if necessary, that's all.
Your propensity for failure notwithstanding, it's not going to pass. It's not going to pass in November if it fails in June.
To the chair? To the chair?
Yes, go ahead.
Just because we're in the midst of kind of sizing each other up on what we think about this, the insurance cost and financial loan opportunity cost of declaring a financial emergency, that there are actual real repercussions if you do that. That would allow us to get it on the ballot sooner, but there are repercussions to that. And versus the following November, 5 months later, I think the frame of reference of to save 5 months versus the repercussions, I think it's, for me, I'm leaning towards, no, let's wait till November.
I agree, and we save money on not having the special election, and we have more voters turn out.
I'm of the same opinion. I think November for those same reasons, and just saving money, and then just the higher voter turnout. It lets more people vote, which is always a good thing, and as our consultant and others have said, like, the more people that vote on a measure like this, the more likely it is.
So we got a motion then for November? Because I'm fine with that too.
Oh,
we're all going that way.
Oh, do we have to decide on an amount before we can decide on the time, or are those two separate things?
This is just the date for the election.
Just the date.
Sure.
I suggest we are in agreement that we take a vote on whether we want it and I put forward the November general election date.
November motion.
You want me to do the motion?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm for the November election.
Yeah, also.
I'm for it as well, because I don't like the idea of the emergency declaration.
Right.
Repercussions, and more people can vote, because it's November, people are used to that.
I also just think that, like, from what we've seen, the more people that find out about the actual state of things, the more people are likely, and we just give ourselves that much more time to let folks know.
And then when we go through the budget process by the end of June and July, and let people know again where we're at even more going into November, works out hopefully for us. So do we have a motion for the November?
Sure. Motion to, go ahead, Jeffrey, you were saying something.
City Manager, do we need a motion for this, or is this just recommendation to staff?
A motion would be good.
I need glasses for that.
Motion to include the sales tax increase on the November 3rd, 2026 general election for the city at a amount to be determined, probably between 1% or 1.5%.
Yeah. Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right. Thank you, Will.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 10, public hearing, snow parking ordinance first reading, and Chief, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you know, the parking lot at the Siskiyou, at the Sisson Youth Baseball Park was intended to be utilized for short-term parking for the kids and the parents going to the baseball field. This parking lot has also been designated as one of the snow parking areas for the city during snow operations, typically between November and May of every year. However, this has created a conflict in recent years as the youth sports season has moved up into March to be competitive with the Reading sports. This has resulted in numerous complaints from parents and from baseball coaches and staff to the park and to the police department that they don't have available parking because they have all the trailers and stuff parking there, taking it up for snow season. So my recommendation is to address this, we're going to change the snow parking designation and only allow snow parking there through the months of November 1st through March 1st. This will allow for us to clear the parking lot out so that the kids and parents can get there. And with the acquisition of the 2 new city parking lots, we're going to have more than enough alternate parking spaces within the city, so it shouldn't impact anybody. They'll still have places, they still have 3 places now, even without the, excuse me, without the 2 to park vehicles for during snow, and we never fill up all of those during the snow season. So simply, this is just amending the section which allowed it to be a snow parking to be only viable for November 1st through March 1st. And again, this will just allow us to assist with the sports programs to make sure that they're getting in and out of there.
Okay. All right, any questions? All right, we'll open it up to public comment if everybody wants to complain about this. No, I didn't think anybody was going to do that. All right, seeing nobody who wants to speak, we'll bring it back to council. Do we have a motion?
I had a question for this. Was it intentional to make it through March 1st instead of the end of February? Just because it felt kind of odd to like include one day in March. So maybe I'm misreading that.
Just the March 1st, because it's after March 1st when the season, so they didn't have a real date of when they're, but it March 1st, because the other thing is February has 28 days. And then February has 29 days.
Oh, okay.
So March 1st is always March 1st, and
I like it.
Yeah. Okay.
Works
Thank
for
you,
me.
Chief.
Thank you.
All right. You got this, Tessa, or is Casey?
Yeah,
Okay.
I just want to make sure I'm on the right one. Okay. I move to approve ordinance CCO 25- next in line. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Mount Shasta amending section 10.44.080 to the Mount Shasta Municipal Code.
You got a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? Okay, before I move on to number 11, no, this is a little out of protocol, but going back to the cast agenda item, we have a couple gentlemen here that have driven great length for 5 hours and just missed the agenda item that would just like to spend a minute or two of their public comment time saying thank you and some other words if they would like to come up right now. And I know this is out of ordinary for anybody who's watching, but they drove 5 hours and just missed us, so this is why we're doing it.
I am Jairam Tamata. I am a Nepali leader, and I am here just to say thank you, Mayor and Council member, for passing caste resolution today. This is very important for me, my family, and the whole our Dalit community. Thank you.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. My name is Prem Perrier, and I'm honored to be here today on behalf of our caste-oppressed citizens. I stand before you not only as a community member, but also as someone carrying the lived experiences, struggles, and hope of families who deserve to be safe, feel safe and respected in every part of their lives. So I'm Mira's friend, and as you mentioned, I drove 5 hours to get here, and I'm here just to express my gratitude for passing caste resolution today. We are very grateful to city mayors, council members, city manager, and staffs for hearing our voice and community concern. Thank you.
No, thank you very much for the dedication of driving here for this. Thank you. All right, moving on to number 11. Yeah, we're done it, yeah.
Hey, sorry guys, I have one question for you. So I'm all for passing any sort of anti-discrimination things that we can. Obviously, I would hope this isn't something that we see here a lot, but you never know, and so I think it's great that we have it. I actually just have a question for, like, is this something that you want to see written into, like, the state, like made into state law? Is that the next step? I'm just kind of curious. Obviously, this is a great step for us in our community, but just curious where you guys are trying to take this.
I think that passing the resolutions under.
May, can you come up to the speaker? Sorry.
Sorry, we're taking too much time. I believe that passing the resolution underpins a structure that already condemns discrimination. And earlier, what I was trying to highlight is that caste is the key that we need in the legal language, a protection for so many caste-oppressed individuals.
So there's, Senate Bill 403 is still in committee, and that is to ban caste-based discrimination and embed that in state civil rights law.
Yeah, and it was upheld, so in essence, we're just complying with state law.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you all again very much. All right, moving on to number 11, dry sludge removal. Ken, let's hear it.
We really try to save the best for last.
I've been waiting 3 weeks for this one.
Keep the sludge back down the way.
Good night, guys. Thank you. You didn't want to stick around for dry sludge? We're going to cast it out somewhere.
Mayor and City Council, as part of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, the State Water Board issued a new discharge permit to the city. As part of that discharge permit, the city is required to clean out the existing 5 ponds we have at the wastewater treatment plant. We've successfully cleaned out ponds 1 and 2, which really held the majority of the sludge. Over 2 summers, we got those ponds dried out, moved the material to the old sand beds, but now we need to dispose of it. So the closest site that will take that material is the landfill at White City, Oregon. So we are looking at, basically about 50 loads, more or less, $1,000 a load to transport, about $1,500 a load for the landfill fees. So we're looking at a low end of $125,000. We're asking for not to exceed $150,000 to get that material disposed of. Now that's step 1, and that's the immediate step. We still have ponds 3, 4, and 5. They contain less material, much less in the way of biosolids, if you will, more algae. And we are investigating the possibility of doing land application with that material. We're at the early stages of exploring that, but I think it's a good possibility we'll be able to take that material and you can use material like that for agricultural purposes, silvicultural purposes. We've got we have the orchard. We've got parts of the landing that are nothing but timber that we could spread this. It's not hazardous. So anyway, I'm getting off track. That's for the future. The immediate issue is not to exceed $150,000 to dispose of the dry sludge from ponds 1 and 2.
Okay.
And if I could add just a couple points to that, the requirement to haul this to White City, we need to haul it to the closest facility that takes hazardous material. So it's not only the extra cost for disposing of hazardous material, but it's the it's the distance that we need to travel, and it's also the tipping fees. I think one of the more important things is the funding for this doesn't come from the general fund. It comes from wastewater treatment plant operations funds, which are, are in pretty good shape.
Sorry, say the last word, or what?
Which are wastewater treatment plant funds, which are in pretty good shape.
Oh,
Okay. Okay, any questions, counselors?
Is something like this budgeted for, do we need to worry about a large expenditure out of the sewer fund?
Catch that last word.
Do we need to worry about this large unanticipated expenditure out of the sewer fund?
No, the sewer funds does have the capacity to handle this.
No, we do.
Got a question? Yeah, wait for the train. Just 2 more honks.
Okay. So we don't really have any other. I mean, this is state mandated, right? Like, there's no
That's
just
correct.
leaving this
Yeah.
to do its own thing. I mean, this has to be done.
We really have no choice.
Yeah. Okay.
Correct.
Just making sure. Like, yeah. Cool.
We could pretend we decided.
Yeah, right, yeah. No kidding. All right, we'll open it up to public comment. If anybody wishes to comment on this.
Aloha.
Aloha.
My company, SW, we just pretend to have done some here and did the same thing, just like last week or something. We took it up to White City and dropped it off hazmat and all that, and he could only do 2 loads a day, and it was quite a process or whatever. But the question is this, do you already have the bid? It's already like locked in or whatever, or do you need another bid and we can throw it in? Maybe a little discount, a little less than 1,000.
Yes, we're open to another bid.
All right, gotta ask. I get on it.
Good man. Okay, so.
Uphill.
Okay. Seeing nobody else, we'll close public comment, bring it back. Do we have a motion on this shit? That worked on a lot of levels, pun-wise.
Motion to approve the expenditure of not to exceed $150,000 for the removal, hauling, and disposal of contaminated wastewater sludge from ponds 1 and 2.
Second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Opposed? None? All right, moving on from one removal to another, senior snow time. Ken, you have the floor again.
I can do this, believe it or not, yeah. Okay, on September 17th, we did have the bid opening for the senior snow removal contract. We had 3 contractors bid. The way the bidding was structured this year, we had the town broken into 12 zones. So they bid on each zone separately. Coincidentally, 2 firms ended up being low bid on 6 routes apiece. They were Wallace Enterprise and MSC Landscape. The bids do appear to be fair and reasonable. We basically ask that you review the information that's enclosed and approve awarding or issuing the notice of awards to these 2 contractors. Just so you know, estimate-wise, the event, what is it about? I think total, and this is per event. I don't have it added up, but roughly $10,000 per event, with maybe 10 events for the winter if it's a big winter. So an estimate of $100,000 for the season.
Okay.
There's maybe $250,000 left in this grant, but this is also the last year of the grant. So I guess what I'm saying is I don't see any way we'll exceed the money available.
You need more seniors?
Sure.
Any questions for Ken? No?
I'm just curious, actually, how this happened. Did each of these companies only bid on 6 routes, or did they each bid on 12? And
They each bid on 12.
But they somehow came out low on half of them and low on the other
Yeah,
half?
one contract came out high on all of them. And then the other 2 just coincidentally.
Weird, okay.
Yeah.
We'll open up to public comment if anybody wishes to speak on this. Okay. All right. Jesus Christ. All right, seeing nobody to speak, we'll close public comment. Do we have a motion on this? Or any other comments first? No? Go ahead.
Motion to approve the senior snow removal contract for 2025, 2026, and approve the 2 bids submitted by Wallace Enterprises and MSC Landscape for the 6 routes each.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? None? All right. Moving on to 13. John's not here for any outside meetings. Tessa, you got any? Casey, anybody? Bueller? None? All right, moving on. And then future agenda items, we have the master fee schedule coming up. Does anybody wish to add anything at this time?
We'll need to determine how much the sales tax measure will be at some
Oh,
point.
we got that. All right, seeing that, we adjourn the meeting. See you guys in 2 weeks. Thank you, everybody.